Hi guys, it's James again, and while I was working on some other lists to do for future videos, I got inspired by some of the movies I was looking through to do another one. And this one came together pretty quick the other night, finished it off just a few minutes ago actually. And this one is Top 10 Hybrid Films. Now I just called it Hybrid Films, but it's basically when you have most common, I don't know what the most common, but you get like Shaun of the Dead, comedy / horror, action, sci-fi, romance, thriller, romantic comedy. Now I avoided the more common, most of the more common ones like romantic comedy or sci-fi action, just because there's a lot more to choose from. There is a lot more to choose from, but there's a lot more well-known ones, and I'm going for the hidden gems. And also the ones that are in genres that are outside of the norm, usually. So, I will start with number 10. Number 10 is an indie film called New Rose Hotel. Now, this is one of the ones done by Abel Ferrara, prolific American director, and depending on which site you look at, it could either be sci-fi, drama, mystery, or in the case of Wikipedia, I think it was cyberpunk / erotic drama. And this one deals with, it's got Asia Argento, Willem Dafoe, and Christopher Walken as the three main leads in the movie, I suppose. And you get Willem Dafoe plays a character named X, and Christopher Walken plays Fox, and Asia Argento is this girl named Sandy. And it takes place in Japan, and it's I guess this almost could have been like on the dystopian list I did, but it's basically like two guys who work to help smuggle scientists out of companies that the scientist wants to leave the company, and the company's like, well, we'd rather kill you than let you work for a competitor. So they help smuggle them out of the company and get them out of the country to another location of their choosing, or just in hiding in general. And I remember this one was one of the direct-to-video Lionsgate ones that I found on VHS. And despite not knowing hardly anything about it, I think I had seen the preview, and it looked somewhat interesting, and I thought it was a lot better than I gave it credit for, or I thought it would be. It was a very interesting story, apparently based on a short story by William Gibson, but I thought it was interesting, very well done. Another one that you finish watching, it leaves you with a bunch of questions. So that's number 10, New Rose Hotel. Number 9, we have a dark comedy / thriller called Bad Kids Go to Hell. I picked this one up, I think, just on, it might have been on the title alone, and it's pretty funny, kind of off the wall. The most recognizable face in it would be Judd Nelson. He plays the headmaster of this private school that a bunch of kids go to, and there's 6 kids in particular that get assigned detention. And there's an underlying thing of, apparently there's the doctor at the school and the headmaster in cahoots to organize certain psychological experiments on the kids, and a bunch of crazy stuff happens while they're in detention. I don't want, and then again, this isn't going to be another spoiler video, so I'm just, it's worth it to see the kids in the room, but also I think the standout is some of the lines that Judd Nelson gives. He's pretty funny in that. But the teens do a good job. It's Bad Kids Go to Hell. Yeah, I didn't recognize the director's name. I'd seen some of the actors and actresses in other things, but the names might not ring a bell. So Bad Kids Go to Hell. Number 8, number 8, we have a Western/comedy horror. Just a note, there's going to be several Westerns on here because Western is really a genre that you don't normally see. It would be like Western action, Western drama, maybe some comedy, but not many other. It doesn't branch out into many other genres normally. This one, Western comedy horror called Undead or Alive, and this one's it's like a zombie comedy. It takes place in the Old West, and let me see, the more recognizable. Yeah, technical title, Undead or Alive, a zombie. Zombie. And the more recognizable people in this one would be Chris Kattan, Matt Besser, if you know who that is. Not many. Leslie Jordan. Yeah, okay. But a lot of them, the two leads out of the two leads, it would be Chris Kattan. The other guy's name is James Denton. And this is sort of a zombie outbreak that happens. We get one guy who's on the run from the Union Army, and they rob a sheriff in an Old West town, and a zombie outbreak occurs. And there's not much more to it than that, but it does involve. It does involve a lot of physical comedy, mostly from Chris Kattan. James Denton plays the straight man in this one, to Chris Kattan's off-the-wall comedic performance. And Chris Kattan and his horse have a lot of funny scenes, because he's got a really, really silly name for it that I can't remember. No, I can't remember. But it's pretty funny. It's worth a good watch. That's Undead or Alive. Number 7, we have a comedy horror. I guess you could probably throw some drama in there. I don't. Some of the comedy is played pretty straight, and it's the one called He Never Died, and this one stars Henry Rollins. And he's sort of a drifter, wants to be left alone, and he helps out this waitress who's being antagonized. And through the course of the film, a lot of his violent past gets uncovered. Now, I saw this one. I thought it's got a very, very cool poster, not the one that you see on IMDb, but it's got an alternate poster that's on the DVD that's really cool looking. And I thought, well, this looks cool. Henry Rollins is good. So I watched the movie, and then I found out later that if you watch the trailer it spoils an important plot point that I think is very important, a bit of a spoiler, so I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it on a blind watch. Like, you hear about this, He Never Died, comedy horror, Henry Rollins. I think it's a very good movie. So if that intrigues you, I would just see if you can find it and watch it. Maybe watch the trailer after, because I don't always believe it when they say the trailer gives a lot away, but I think this one gives away something that I found surprising, finding out later. Again, even if I had known, it wouldn't have ruined the movie for me, but if you can avoid the trailer, I would say do so before watching the movie. He Never Died. Number 6 is a Western/psychological thriller called Diablo. And this one was another one, I just saw the title, I saw the picture, and I thought it sounded interesting. And this one stars Scott Eastwood, Walton Goggins, Danny Glover, Camille Bell, Adam Beach is in there. And it's Scott Eastwood plays a young Civil War veteran, and he's going from point A to point B. He's trying to find the woman that he loves. And he comes across an outlaw played by Walton Goggins, who sort of, I guess he'd be the antagonist of the film to a point, and Scott Eastwood is trying to track down his beloved and meets up with Danny Glover and Danny Glover's daughter in the movie, and Danny Glover seems to know something about him, about his past in the Civil War. I think his daughter wants to help him. It's been a little while since I watched it. But it has an interesting twist at the end, especially between Scott Eastwood and Walton Goggins, and I really enjoyed it. Of course, the first time I watched it, I think I saw it online, and there was no subtitles, and there are some subtitles required in the movie, I believe. And so I managed to pick up the DVD, but I haven't rewatched it since. But I will one of these days, because I enjoyed it. That's called Diablo. Number 5, I have one that I mentioned on the Movie Madhouse podcast as one of my top 10 favorite musicals. And this was, it's a musical / black comedy, and this is Trey Parker and Matt Stone's first film they made, and it's called Cannibal the Musical. And it's a comedic musical take on the what is it called? The group of people that were going up in the snowy mountains, and Alfred Packer. That's the main. Based on a real life event, but there's a name for it. Oh, what is it? I'm sorry. Sorry, bear with me here. No, it's basically it's basically based on the true story behind Alfred Packer, and like how he ate all these people that were all traveling across the snowy mountains in the middle of winter, and he's on trial, and he recounts his version of the story, and then they throw a bunch of comedy and singing into it. And I thought it was hilarious. And if you manage to find the DVD, there's one of their commentaries on it, but it's a drunk commentary, so they're drinking heavily while the commentary is going on, and it's pretty funny. It's really funny. And let me see. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to make this right about... No, I can't find it. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to move on. That's Cannibal the Musical. Number 4, we have a movie called Brimstone, and it's a Western thriller. And this one involves Guy Pearce, Dakota Fanning, and Guy Pearce sort of plays a preacher that's very religious, but very, very punishing. And there was Dakota Fanning, and he had Kit Harington's in there too, Carice Van Houten from Game of Thrones. And this movie sort of starts, not at the end, but maybe sort of middle, 3/4 of the movie, and then it jumps back, because you get Guy Pearce's character, he's just called the Reverend. He shows up at sort of to raise hell, get revenge, but you don't know for what and from who. And stuff happens, and then it jumps back to what happened previously, whether it's like months or a year ago. And then after that, it goes back again before that, and it just keeps jumping back until it catches up to the story points that are important, and then it continues on from there. And it's basic. Well, the plot summary basically just says, from the moment the new reverend climbs the pulpit, Liz knows she and her family are in great danger. And you do find out very specific reasons for that as the movie goes along. And it's beautifully shot, very, very well acted. Very well acted. And it's a very different villain role for Guy Pearce, who's done villain roles before, like as like Bloodshot and Iron Man 3 as the Mandarin. Excuse me if you've seen it. But this is a more sinister evil role. Like, he is a bad guy. So that is called Brimstone. Number 3, we have a Western horror, and called Western horror called Dead Birds. And this one has a fairly I guess I'd say stacked cast, because you've got Henry Thomas in there, Patrick Fugit, Michael Shannon's in there, Nicky Icox, Muse Watson from the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies, the first 2 at least, Mark Boone Jr., Isaiah Washington. And this is sort of this band of bank robbers. They rob a bank, as I just said. They rob a bank. They're former Confederate soldiers. They rob a bank, and they're on their way to stash it, and they come upon this field in front of this farmhouse, and this really bizarre creature bursts out of the field, and they kill it, and it's like nothing they've ever seen before. It's like some evil-looking monster. And so they decide, because they're hiding out, they decide to take refuge in this farmhouse. And over time, over the course of the movie, they discover that there were several awful and most likely evil demonic things that went on by the people who lived in this farmhouse. And paranoia, they start getting set upon each other. Like, who's going to keep the money, how much of a share everyone should have, and, well, I want the money, I don't want to split it up with anyone. But you've also got this sinister, like, demonic presence going on in there. And it has a very circular, from beginning to end, circular nature of the film, and if you see it, you'll know what I mean. From early on in the film to the very end. And it'll make sense. It'll make sense if you check it out. The director, I thought it was a very well done movie. The director followed it up with a movie called Red Sands, but Red Sands. Anyway, I didn't really care for it. It was another a horror movie that took place in the Middle East, wartime, and it wasn't nearly as good. Not nearly as good as this one. It was okay. So that was Dead Birds. And number 2, we have a Western horror, again, called Bone Tomahawk. And this, I believe, was the debut film from S. Craig Zoller. Let's see his name. S. Craig Zoller. And he followed up this one with Brawl in Cell Block 99, and starring Vince Vaughn, and Dragged Across Concrete, which starred Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson. It was sort of a crime drama, corrupt cops. And Brawl in Cell Block 99 was a former boxer gets sent to prison. He has to make deals in order to keep his wife safe on the outside. But Bone Tomahawk is awesome, very gory, very violent movie. But you don't expect the horror aspect of it until it hits you. And you've got, it says, like, in the dying days of the Old West, an elderly sheriff and his posse set out to rescue their town's doctor from cannibalistic cave dwellers. And they have one guy in town, Native Indian, played great by Longmire and Westworld veteran actor Zahn McClarnon. and they get info on these cannibalistic humanoids from him, and they're basically a tribe of native Indians that have gone cannibal and are just inhuman. And he basically says they want to go after him to get the doctor back, and he's just like, it doesn't matter how many of you there are, that you're still gonna die, because these guys are brutal. But it's so good. You've got Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, Richard Jenkins, as I said, Zane McLaren, Sid Haig is in there, David Arquette, James Tolkien. It is a Michael Pare is in there. It's a highly impressive movie. Very, very strong directorial debut. Could have made my list for top 10 directorial debuts, or at least honorable mentions. I may have forgotten. So Bone Tomahawk. And number 1, I don't believe I've mentioned this before, at least not on these videos, maybe on the Madhouse podcast. And it's a romance / body horror movie called Spring. And I had heard of it referred to as romantic monster movie. And when I saw it, it's done by, let's see, it's done by the guys who did, Aaron Moorhead, Justin Benson, who did the movie The Endless and Resolution. And this one takes place in between, and you've got, what's his name? Lou Taylor Pucci and Nadia Hilker. And a young guy who is taking care of his dying mother. After his mother dies from cancer, he gets in a bar fight, and when the guys come looking for him, he taunts them and tells them to screw off. And the guy actually calls the cops, and the cops come to his house. Well, he gets out the other door and hops a plane to Italy. He meets up with a couple of British, you could say British hooligans kind of thing, that go on a drinking tour, and then they stop in Italy, or a certain town in Italy, and they take off, saying, good luck. They take off, and he meets this Italian woman, and they start up, and she's very mysterious, and they start up a relationship, and she has a secret, and the body horror monster movie part of this is involved in that secret. And I won't say too much, because at some point in the movie, you're just like, what the hell is going on? And the movie changes. But the relationship between the two is very, very, very intriguing, very touching. And the cinematography by Moorhead and Benson is just off the wall beautiful. And they even used drones to get a lot of the aerial shots just from the town in Italy that they're in, and it's just beautiful. Oh man, it's such a good looking movie. So well done. And the special effects, which I won't talk about, are really cool as well. So, yeah. So, it's called Spring. And yeah, I'll get back to the other lists I'm doing, but I just started writing this down. It's like, I need to do this. I'm really interested in this list, and I need to get this down and done. So keep on the lookout for my other top 10 list coming up. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you didn't. I hope I didn't drag on too much with Cannibal the Musical. I just couldn't remember what it was actually called, but it involved Alfred Packer. And if you look his name up, you'll know what I'm talking. The Donner Party. That's what it is. The Donner Party. Yeah, it's a take on that. So, there. I was hoping I'd get it before I was done. So, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you soon. Toodles.